guys, it's Kathy, and yeah, I know you can't hear me, but you can almost hear me, so it's fine. I'm so mad. I'm so mad right now. I got these. I got these new headphones. I'm gonna try to see if there's any possible way to make. Oh, you can almost see what it is. Anybody? Anybody know what that is? Can you guess what that is? It's not showing up. They're pineapples. I have pineapple headphones and they don't show up with my stupid green screen. Now you can hear me better, right? These work. They're not the greatest, but they work. Sometimes. Sometimes they crackle. Look what Fozzie sent me. Guess what I made Fozzie do? When I got home from work, guess what I made Fozzie do for me? Guess. Anybody have a guess what I made Fozzie do? He got me a beer. He got me a beer out of the refrigerator. I made Fozzie get me a beer today. Tomorrow I'm going to put little gloves on his hands and he's going to wash out the sink in the kitchen. I can I can make Fozzie do anything. Oh man. Oh. I also have a picture. I'm going to send it to Discord and then I can show you on my screen. I found this truck on the way to work. I'm going to get you a good picture. Okay. Hold on. I'm going to show it on my screen in 25 seconds or less. Where's my test file? Where's my test file? Where's my test file? There. Maiko, look at what I saw on the way to work today. Oh no, it's stuck. Can you see that? It says, no, you can't. I didn't. Doom! Hold on, I stuck it up there and now it won't come down. It says Maiko. It's some trucking company that's Maiko. I thought it was so cool. Okay. Yes. I'm fancy because you guys deserve fancy. You guys deserve because it's the Kimberly Hurd trial. So I dressed up for it. Hi, Monica on Facebook. Hello. Oh man, I wish I had ruby slippers with this. Oh, that would be so cool. But I don't. So we're getting there. This is the day. This is January 24th. We're still on Maiko's birthday last year, which by the way is tomorrow this year. And I have that judge for him. I just have to find him. So tomorrow I'm going to start with a judge for Maiko and then go back into the Kimberly Hurd trial. We're going to take a Maiko break for his birthday. I better find that freaking clip. If I lost it, I'm going to cry. I think they did. I think you're right. Oh man, I would love those ruby slippers. Where would you wear them to though? It doesn't matter. I would make a reason to wear them somewhere. I guess Halloween. I could be Dorothy, and then I could wear them once, one time. $40,000 for one wear. Okay, so we still have the octopus, the elephant, the. I honestly don't know what that is. Oh my gosh, yes. I would wear them to Kansas. Yep, it's gonna be Micah's birthday. I wish I could give him a great big cake. I have the best baker here. Oh my gosh. All right, let's go to the Kimberly Hurd trial. Opapari, Opapami, Opapari. Yeah. I think that would be Donald's screen name. So we left at 14:41, so I bumped it back a couple seconds so that we can get back into where we were yesterday.
Anyone send an email to the other side saying the judge said let's make this appointment?
She hasn't had an appointment since we were here 2 weeks ago, Judge.
He hasn't responded to me.
In the last 2 weeks, have you asked him to set an appointment on this issue?
I've asked him for her appointments. The only
Because there is maybe a very, that's why I suggest there may be a very simple solution to a complex.
Make a joint.
Very simple selection to a complex question, which would be, and I indicated last time, if you can make a joint appointment with the specialist, if they are willing to weigh in precisely on this issue.
He doesn't respond to me.
I can make him respond to you if what you're saying
You
is
told
true.
him last time too.
He did, Judge. She doesn't
He
have
still-
any appointments. He gave her a list of all future appointments.
I don't
that
have a
would
list.
occur until next
Right,
month.
is it
The one
possible,
appointment,
is
if I
it
could get
possible?
one sentence out.
Okay.
The one appointment that
No,
my
that's
client
lying.
did advise
Stop
her
lying.
of, she refused to attend.
I never.
Is it
She said she was
possible,
unable to attend.
is it possible
I'm
to
so tired
make,
of the
is
lies.
it possible to make a special appointment on this issue if it's that all engulfing?
There is with me, but there isn't with him.
No,
because
not really you or him, I mean, is the specialist willing to meet not on the regular scheduled intervals, but to carve out a
We have to
special?
agree to a specialist. In that, we can't
Who,
even agree. We talked to
who
her on the
would
phone.
be,
I haven't
okay,
talked to her on the
but
phone for
can
490
this
days.
specialist meet on a non-prearranged, like, there must be certain intervals, come back every 9 days, 30 days, whatever. Can they, if we can't wait,
We put
to
the
the, when is the, when is the next appointment of any sort?
You put the
Monday.
schedule
We
where?
put the schedule of all the appointments therapeutic on the record last time. She
Right,
asked us
correct.
to do that, we did that. We also advised Ms. Hurd of her future appointments. The next set of them are to occur this coming Monday.
I
and
got
to
one
say-
point
to
two.
say
If
that
the
we
court,
did
if the
correspond using text
parties
messages,
are
we
insisting
looked
the
at-
court weigh in on this,
At the
and if
ER,
the,
or
hold
at
on, if the
follow-up.
court is insisting, if one or both parties wants the court to make a finding on this issue, which it sounds like it is, why is the court getting pushback when it's doing if someone has something more fair, it's unfair for me to get sucked into their dispute about who's less cooperative, although it looks to an extent like I will have to make some findings on this. Is there something that's more fair, more reasonable, more rational than having them required to meet with the specialist who will direct them on this and maybe offer an opinion in writing whether there's sufficient progress and what our game plan is from this point forward? Isn't that more fair than these two venting on each other and playing the blame game and having me ask to referee that and I could probably make findings as to whether one of them who's more or less cooperative as to certain aspects, but that's not gonna help these guys. Is there any better way to make a determination on this toilet training issue than
Your
to
Honor?
have them meet with the
There isn't.
specialist? Is there?
I think what you said last time was abundantly fair. I believe that there is not
You got a gold star. Yay, Sandra. Thank you.
a more transparent, even-sided way than to have a clear meeting, from that derive a protocol, and then to the extent that it's then shown somebody's not doing it,
Sure.
Your Honor can weigh in. I would agree with Your Honor.
And
Sure,
he,
Ms.
he
Hurd
would,
feels
and when we agree with that, he understands that if the report says more progress should have been realized over the last couple of years, and here's why, he has to live with that finding. Just like she does if it happens to be that that certain developmental steps are being met.
Judge, he would. I would assume that the myriad of professionals that she's seeing on a regular basis, if they believe that her progress was not being adhered to, would mention that to my client.
I would
and
disagree.
would-
I don't think they wanna be involved.
Maybe.
They don't wanna be involved in this drama.
Your Honor, I'm gonna do my best to not interrupt Ms. Hurd. I understand Your Honor is facing a difficult task, but given that this case has been pending so long, and given that the matter has already been appealed once, the way we started, I do think it is imperative that this court try to instruct Ms. Hurd not to consistently interrupt both myself myself, the witnesses, and Your Honor, because it's going to make for an incredibly muddled record. It's very, very difficult.
I
to
think
know who's
it
talking.
saves me more time if I just concentrate on who I'm speaking to, and then when I'm speaking to her, if he calls out, I'll ignore that as well. I can only focus on one at a time.
If he calls, have we heard the dad interrupting? I I don't remember. I do not remember the dad interrupting. I think, like he said, one or two things once or twice, but I, no, he didn't. Like he's not a constant interrupter. He just sits there and lets his attorney do all the work. Judge, come on.
I could multitask a little better some years
At
ago
least
than I
just
am.
try to jot down your thoughts, and then it will give you ample time to
Okay,
respond.
but aside from the regular, who would be the specialist we're dealing with? Because even though having this dialogue prevents us or delays us in getting critical witness testimony, there's a lot of witness testimony so far that I'm not clear was 100% helpful to the court. Maybe that'll turn out to be wrong. So I think this is worthwhile, since this isn't gonna go away. This is a built-in issue in the record, the potty training issue. She's insisting that this should have been accomplished by now. He's insisting he's done everything diligent. Are they able to meet with someone before the regularly scheduled? It could be like she alludes to, if they know that this is litigation oriented, they'll avoid it like the plague. I think it would be smart and wise, though a specialist may figure it out anyway, not to make any reference to any court case, but to just indicate, we really want commonality. We want to see you eyeball to eyeball talking with both of us about this issue. Who would be the specialist for that, and can we see him or her in the near future?
I would suggest you start with Ms. Hurd, Judge, so that she can be heard, and then I can respond to your question.
Okay, please. Who would be the person if the court requires the two of you? And the answer to this isn't look at Dr. Miller's older records, although that could be. It could be Dr. Miller who you meet with, but who would be the one who would be available to meet with us on this issue and help us?
And that's a really good question, because the person I feel that is on her side, not my side, not his side, her side the most, because that's what I want. I want someone who's gonna tell, if I have,
Why would a specialist who's paid by insurance be on either person's
is
side?
Dr. Miller.
Dr. Miller,
And
okay.
this wasn't enough time to get a hold of her. The other, that's who I would trust, because I know, because she's put me in my place when I had to be put in my place.
Okay.
I trust her to be on Aslan's side. I want somebody on Aslan's
Are
side.
there specialists who are not on someone's, are opposed to a parent?
Oh, I don't think that that's it. I just think
Good,
that they don't
good.
want to hurt feelings, or they don't want to be involved, or they don't want the drama, so they're not, it's not that they're.
They don't want
I
you.
don't blame them. Do
They're
you?
just,
Okay.
they're very hush on it. They're just very
Okay.
silent, because they don't want to rock the boat.
Physicians are directed to avoid matters which seem to be more
Her-
litigation than medical oriented, so.
The other person that
What's
I was
Dr.
interested
Miller's
in
role?
her
Is Dr.
OT,
Miller,
but her OT,
what's
what?
Dr. Miller's role?
she was the primary at Anthem Hills.
And she's not anymore?
She has a fellowship at UNLV.
And how
For
long is she,
pediatrics.
when was the last time she saw her?
July of 2021.
It's quite some time ago. She'd have to see her again and evaluate
But she
her.
saw her from birth till then.
But again, the
And yeah,
court,
she'd have to see her again, I would agree.
the
yeah.
court has to rule on the current state of affairs. Even if I found that a child could have been potty trained 2 years ago, oddly enough, that doesn't necessarily translate to she could be potty trained now. Some kids regress for whatever reason.
Right, they do, and that's what I was saying. I've said that on the record several times.
That's right, you did.
And that was a concern because she was doing so well with, okay, I'm like, the other person that I was interested in, and I was unaware that she was not her OT anymore because Mario did not tell me, and she'd been her OT since she was 9 months old, is Ari, her OT. She left in August of 2022, and he did not tell me. I had no clue that she wasn't her acting OT until I got these records. So she's been Aslan's OT since she was 9 months old, and I wasn't even aware. He didn't even tell me that she left. So I don't know.
She
how much
doesn't,
community
because
somebody who's
he's
left.
not making her.
That's why I've asked for the records. And when I called to ask for the records, they hang up on me. So I'm getting a lot of pushback from everywhere. So Ari, I tried to get a hold of her, but again, she hasn't been her, isn't her OT. She's the one who and she's on the record in her OT at Summerlin, the history. We worked together, and she was well aware of it. And then she leaves, and it goes silent. Nobody's working with her
Right.
anymore. So I don't know these
It
families.
could be, it could, as, you know, I tried, it could be, she could be right, no one wants to touch this for various reasons, in which case, I'm not gonna be able to rule on this. Unless there's something so shocking or glaring in his testimony that she establishes, which sometimes happens, that he's establishing he's rejecting certain directives or recommendations from the specialist. If someone's put that in writing, then he's got a problem to deal with. I don't know. I don't think I'd go, unless Dr. Miller or the, Ari, the OT from a few years back is available, and they'd have to reevaluate Aslan as to the current state of affairs.
I
There
guess,
just wasn't enough time because I didn't get the records until, I mean, we have 3 binders of records that I didn't
And
get
this
till
was
4 weeks
this
ago.
was also sort of a test when I ordered this last time, because I knew we were probably gonna have these availability problems. But if one of them had, and I'm gonna find out, because it's valuable to solve the problem if it can be solved. It's also valuable to show me who wants to solve the problem rather than just pointing fingers. I'm looking to see if either of them was sharp or smart enough, based on the court's directive, to take 5.2 seconds writing a 2-sentence email or text saying, you heard what the judge said, let's arrange a joint appointment so we can get the joint answer. So it was really more for that than anything else, because I suspected it was gonna be like she said, that these people are either far removed in time, or they're not willing to jump into such a specific project on short notice. So, and I'm gonna, if the case doesn't end today, there's gonna be a similar test, and you don't pass the test this time by just saying, Leah, let's get this solved. Someone has to come to the table. I've made the following calls, I really pounded the pavement, here's what I found out, here's someone who, one of these who may be able to meet with us on some of these issues. If all you can get is the primary caregiver saying, look, I don't know if I can weigh in on that particular issue or issue a
But that
report,
should get
but
a
I'll talk
referral.
to you guys about all issues in dispute as to the treatment, so we can go on all on the same page. That's something. That might enable the court to, not to rule that potty training should have occurred, but maybe who's cooperative and who isn't on the issue, even if that's the best we can do. So that's, could be 10,000 times more valuable to the court than this continued blame game that they're playing. Let me see who's saying, I'm willing to be the adult in the room, I wanna be the adult in the room, we can't afford this conflict on this level. I made these calls, here's what I found out. This person may not be able to totally laser focus in on that, but they're willing to talk, could be the primary caregiver. What's so hard, if we can't get someone willing to drill in directly on the potty training and issue a report, what's so hard about getting these two in the same room? Sometimes I get a valuable report, I recommended this and that, and one or both parents was resisting or whatever. Sometimes it's really illuminating. So the winner of this case is gonna be the one who says, I don't wanna fight anymore, I wanna solve these problems, I wanna communicate, I can cooperate, I can compromise. And, because you don't have the luxury with a child with these highly unfortunate challenges to be in the same degree of dispute that you might have in other cases where we don't have these challenges. You can't afford it. And if someone says, someone has to start taking accountability. If it's, well, why should I have to? It's all her fault or all his fault. Well, sometimes it's how someone reacts to conflict. I understand, and we can gauge how we react to that, even if we think it's all someone else's fault. And I understand that the conflict here, rather than being a little more proactive, may be more of the shutting out nature, that there is no effective communication or cooperation. So, I did, and she reminded me of it, last time I did say, let's get a little email or text traffic on this issue. Did anyone take the initiative and they prepared to produce a and I understand you would
Yeah.
want to communicating to your firm and not to your
No,
client directly, but no,
have-
did we
when
receive that
this-
since the
when
last
this
hearing?
on the stand, we have copies of text messages where she was notified by
Okay.
our client of upcoming appointments, further notified of a follow-up with the child's current pediatrician.
Okay.
In writing, Ms. Hurd says she is unable to attend and does not
How
attend.
how
that
long
appointment.
ago were those?
That
This
was
was
last
Monday.
Monday.
Okay,
So, and that is the very same pediatrician that is seeing the child regularly and has been seeing the child since Dr. Miller stopped seeing her 3 years ago at exactly the same
Okay.
pediatrics group that the child's been
She
with
sees
her entire
different.
life. Yes, it is a
Okay.
different provider at the same group because Dr. Miller's no longer there, and that was an opportunity.
And I'm
invitation.
sorry, what's the name of the current,
Anthem Hills.
and but what's the specific physician, or do they vary it?
Bordelot, I believe,
Fortalo?
B-A-R-L-O-W.
Barlow
Barlow
is the main,
is the primary care physician at Anthem Hills who took over primary care following Dr. Miller.
Okay.
So yes, to answer your question, yes, that was
we
done.
can make an
Yes,
appointment
we
with
can
Barlow.
absolutely, and we have, Judge.
Okay.
The textual evidence to support that that
Okay.
was offered and that Ms. Hurd was unable to attend.
You guys need to make an appointment with Dr. Barlow, whether Dr. Barlow will be willing to do a deep dive in this specific issue and reduce the terrain, perhaps not, but Dr. Barlow, male or female?
Male.
Male, but he presumably can make recommendations. Now, and here's how we avoid a pointless debate where it's pointless, circular, nonsensical debate, time-consuming, stressful debate about someone saying, I invited her and she's not cooperative, and she said, what are you talking about? You made appointments during when I'm at work, etc. So, the way to solve that is tell us what time period you would be available, like Monday, presumably most of these appointments would be during the week. What times would you be available, or what times and dates should be avoided when setting the appointments?
I'll work around the appointments.
Because he's going to be inviting you to meet with Dr. Barlow as soon as he can make an appointment, and he'll be sending that to you, and I don't want a situation where
No,
you're
that's fine.
unable to attend. Can you
This
work
last-
around it?
Yeah, I can work around that. This last Monday, with kind of tensions being high in trial today, I didn't want to put her in an uncomfortable situation. So I didn't know
I'm
who was
not
gonna
sure
be there. I didn't
is
know
she
if it was
aware
gonna
of
be
all
him
this, or-
or Carrie. I didn't know who was gonna be there,
Okay,
and I didn't want to upset her. Like, she's seen enough. Like, I don't want to stress her out.
okay, but if we make this an
But
issue that we can't
I will work
cooperate
around
and
his
meet, I'm
schedule.
saying you guys need to cooperate and meet, and then it's always a but I can't stress her. She's not necessarily gonna be at this first appointment, is she? You guys are getting information. This purpose of this, and if he says, yeah, I do need to reevaluate
Would
it,
you like
that's
to hear
different.
from me, Judge, or?
Yeah, I assume they have a bunch of, a hit list of issues each of them wanna ask about.
Well, so Judge, I guess my recommendation, and I think this would be Mario's position, is I think it would make the most sense to start with the child's primary care physician and/or her regular therapist that she's seeing. I would think OT would be a great place to start, some combination thereof. Either her current primary care physician will be willing to weigh in and make some recommendations to these parties, or if he cannot, then they can seek a referral from Dr. Barlow to somebody who is perhaps more of an expert in toileting with respect to a Down syndrome child at this age. And then you would have a protocol in place from a professional who's able to render that opinion if that exists, right? I think that makes perfect sense. I think that was our position when we were here about a week and a half ago. I think that's what we discussed. We would maintain that position.
So, appointment with Dr.
Dr.
Barlow
Barlow.
and or the OT.
I would agree with Dr. Barlow.
What's wrong with the OT?
I don't know this OT very well.
So that
and-
means then we should presume positive, not negative, right? I mean,
Well, I've reviewed the records, and just from reviewing the records, she doesn't seem to be as involved as her last OT.
that may be, but it could be a higher caseload or patient load, doesn't it? Let's start with Barlow, and if the OT's willing to meet, that's fine too, two separate reports, whatever.
Right.
If Barlow's gonna refer out to a specialist more laser focused on these type of issues, and he may be able to offer that referral. And obviously, we wouldn't have these reports in the very near future.
I don't
in
know.
time, arguably, for the case decision, we wouldn't have it. But I wanna see the tenor of the communication, and it'll be clear to the court whether it's just communication to humor the court, look, we're satisfying your requirements, so there's no dark mark against us, or whether it is really a constructive, sincere attempt to gain information, gain greater cooperation, and solve these problems. And the way that there's about 118,000 red flags usually in the first sentence of such a communication that would guide the court into whether it's a truly sincere attempt or whether it's just, oh, here's a hoop I have to jump through so that I look better on the case or whatever. That's gonna be clearly apparent in the phraseology, I think. Don't you think? So, yeah,
I
yeah.
think I understand what
Yeah.
Your Honor's saying, and I don't think that's going to be any sort of an issue. I
Sure.
think, you know, it belies logic that my client
Snoopy,
wouldn't support
hi.
the efforts to potty train a child. Pull-ups are expensive.
And I
toilet issues are
understand
not
that,
easy.
but they're both questioning each other's sincerity or diligence or commitment on some level.
Hi, I haunt you.
It's just that she hasn't been there, is
Okay.
all, that's been the actual case.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. If someone really wants to solve this problem, the tonality is gonna tell me.
Sure.
If it's more like, well, I'm willing to do it, but just because A, the court requires this, and B, if it's required, I get to cherry pick who we're gonna use. I have to assume most of this is under the header of a group health plan or something, which means it's pretty slim pickings. We don't get to decide who we want. Is most of this under, well, she may have been established as qualifying for Medicaid, or is this all under his group plan, or is there a,
She has health insurance.
right, and is there any governmental element based on an established,
Child
condition.
on Medicaid.
Yeah.
Insurance.
so this is a combination of Medicaid and a group health plan?
That's-
Okay, and under neither scenario do we get to pick and choose what, there's
I don't
a
believe
very
it's,
short
I don't
list.
believe it's a PPO, Judge.
Okay,
I think
okay,
You're in
okay.
a situation where there's a primary care and then
Okay.
either that person can handle it or they'll make a referral to somebody if they believe a referral is
Okay.
appropriate. And as I said, she does have a myriad
Hmm.
of medical providers currently. I think there's 6 or 7 of them.
And when the court invites people, put this in the hand of the experts who know, and who deal with it. I don't want resistance on that, because that's the only logical way to find out what's occurring. Okay, Grandma, you've been very
It was-
patient. I probably should have excused you
It was-
during that exchange, which wasn't always really pleasant, but maybe it doesn't hurt if one of the people who cares for this child at some of the time hears concerns of how maybe it'll help improve how people deal with things, I don't know. But Mr. Friedman has some questions, and then Mom may have some follow-up based on that. So I apologize, I should have recused you during this, I just spaced out, didn't notice. Okay, let's proceed.
I know your name is Ellen Opapari. Ellen, do you prefer Miss Opapari, or is Ellen okay with you?
Ellen.
Okay, wonderful, Ellen. Thank you, and thank you for being here. I will be brief with you. Just some general questions. Mario has never, it's not the case that Mario has directed you to be Aslan's primary caregiver, has he?
No.
And is it your understanding that in fact Mario views himself as the child's primary caregiver?
Absolutely.
And so would it follow then that educational decisions, healthcare decisions, those types of decisions are decisions made by Mr. Opapari?
Yes.
Okay. And point of fact, is it the case that you're a loving grandmother?
Absolutely.
And I take it that, I don't take it for granted, that you love your granddaughter very much.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you'd be willing to spend as much time as you could with her.
Sometimes I want to spend more than allows.
Okay. There was a lot of discussion about your attendance at certain events and extracurriculars, and I don't know that you were allowed to develop the answer. Is it the case that at a lot of those extracurriculars on the weekend, et cetera, you're there as a grandmother tagging along with Mario as the primary caregiver,
I'm
correct?
there to support my grandchild.
Right, but you're not the person in charge of.
No.
Right, okay. With respect to the period of time that you resided with the defendant and your son that was discussed, your understanding the defendant didn't work at all during that period of time, correct?
No.
Okay, so, other than caring for Aslan, potentially getting her to school or home from school, she didn't have anything else going on during those days?
Correct.
And as you understand it, your son was at the time the sole breadwinner for that household.
Yes.
And was fully employed at that time.
Yes.
And currently, your son remains fully employed.
Yes.
The difference is there isn't a stay-at-home caregiver that there used to be, for example, when Ms. Hurd lived in Melbourne.
Correct.
Okay. Now, I appreciate that. I think that the amount of questions you were asked were exhaustive, so I don't want to spend a lot of time going backwards. I want to take your attention to following, the months following Mr. Opapari's breakup with Ms. Hurd. Do you recall that period of time?
Yes.
Now, if I
No, she doesn't. No, she doesn't recall that time. She was drunk the whole time celebrating. She's still drunk celebrating. She's still happy.
was to say to you that that period of time commenced in approximately October of 2020 and then progressed through approximately February of 2021. Does that sound right?
I'm
I
sorry, what
think
dates?
so.
Meaning, hard to
2021.
pinpoint exactly when a relationship ends, but sort of there was in and out of the relationship from approximately October 2020 through February 2021. Is that about right to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Snoopy, I wish we could help. I wish there was something we could do. Just keep at it one day at a time.
And so then, do you recall an incident that occurred following the termination of that relationship in approximately, I'll give you an exact date actually, March 19th, 2021? Do you recall that? Do you recall an incident that occurred when you were at the home by yourself?
I think that's when Kimberly came to the house.
Okay. So Kimberly came to the house. I just, again, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. At that point in time, which was March 19th of 2021, to your knowledge, had Kimberly stopped living in the home at that time?
Yes,
Had the locks to the residence been changed?
yes,
Had all other means of securing the residence as Mario's separate property been undertaken by Mario?
yes,
And to your knowledge, in and around that period of time, did Ms. Hurd have any right to access the property or be there?
no,
Okay. And on the day in question, that's March 19th, 2021, was Mario at home?
no,
Was Mario in fact out of town?
yes,
Okay. And is it not the fact that you recall receiving a text message from Ms. Hurd on that day in question?
yes,
And was that text message in response to the fact that you heard somebody forcing entry into the property?
yes,
Okay. And when you heard somebody forcing entry into the property and noted that it was Ms. Hurd, did you contact Mario?
yes.
And what did you advise Mario?
I told her that she had come in and he called the police.
Okay, and then did the police ultimately come to the residence?
Yes,
Okay.
Throat punch.
And to your knowledge, wasn't it determined that Ms. Hurd had forced entry through a doggy door?
yes,
Okay, and wasn't it in fact the case that the law enforcement advised her that she had no legal rights to be there,
yes,
and that in fact it was a crime for her to have forced entry in that regard?
yes.
Okay. Your Honor, to please the court, this is already in evidence, the police report
Yeah.
regarding this incident.
But she wasn't arrested, was she?
I believe as a result of this, she was simply
She was?
trespassed. No, I believe she was
Okay,
simply,
okay.
I believe she was simply trespassed on this particular occurrence. It just happens to be that Ms. Opari was physically present in the home.
He didn't allege a subsequent violation, did he?
Alleged subsequent violation,
Of that, a reentry at some further point?
not a trespass,
Okay.
not of that specific issue.
Okay.
Court's indulgence, one moment. Just briefly, there were some questions about Aslan interacting with her peers. Do you recall that?
Yes,
When I think of a peer, I think of somebody that is shoulder to shoulder, similar age, sort of to an individual. Do you hold that same sort of definition?
yes,
Okay. It's your position that there aren't peers at soccer,
I would assume so,
ballet,
yes.
yeah, the
Miracle League
Miracle
Baseball.
League, yeah. So all ways of socializing with other individuals and developing social skills, right?
Right,
Okay. And again, there was a lot of discussion about your percipient knowledge of Aslan's protocol. For the record, I was very impressed at how much she knew, but just to be clear, that's not something that you take on your shoulders as your sole responsibility, correct?
Correct,
To the contrary, that's something that you believe to be the responsibility of your son, I presume?
exactly,
And also, to the extent the defendant's involved, to defend it, correct?
yes.
Okay. I have
Wait,
nothing further.
can you see the first part of that question?
It was answered already, I have nothing further, Judge.
Just that, she thinks the primary responsibility is to the parents. So, you have you can technically redirect since it's your witness,
Okay.
but it's an adversarial witness, so you're allowed to lead if you want. Okay, go ahead.
I would just note for the record, you found her to be adversarial because of her relationship. I would say, I think Ellen has been very cooperative. I don't think she's been hostile or adversarial to.
Right, but I think
No, I
general,
agree.
right, but generally, I think the definition of an adversarial hostile witness doesn't really mean hostile in the traditional sense of the words. It means that this witness, even though called by the other side, is someone who would tend to be motivated to bolster the one side's
I
case rather than the
completely
other.
agree, Judge. I wasn't implying
No, I
anything
know, I know.
contrary, just merely that I thought she was being cooperative and wasn't
Right.
being hostile. That's
Right, I just, so, yes, I should use in hostile in the common parlance of the term, no, but in the technical legal sense, I guess she would be classified. So let's proceed.
So you said it's Mario's responsibility, that was what we ended with, Mario's responsibility takes, is, as a primary caretaker, to take care of Aslan.
Yes,
Okay, so would that responsibility also be relaying to you what she would need to work on? Or, you say he doesn't get home till like 6-ish sometimes, so she doesn't work on anything until after 6?
well, usually he comes home after he's done with his job. He has a very important job.
I never said he didn't. But you're saying it's his responsibility, but he comes home late, he works, but he doesn't relate to you. That would be a responsibility, relating
Well,
to you.
he'll
what
let me
she's
know
working
if
on.
he's gonna be late.
And you don't know what she's supposed to be working on. It's his responsibility, and he doesn't get home till the evening. So there's no consistency, there's no routine, there's no schedule.
Well, you're making, you have broad latitude for cross-examination, but you
Okay,
can't state a series of conclusions, so,
okay.
even though to an extent that occurred on the prior testimony, with the other side, but let's just, okay. If you wanna break each of that down, if it's important, you can, if you wanted to answer.
Yeah, do you make any health decisions for Aslan when you take her to, any appointments?
I don't take her to any appointments other than therapy,
Right, we established you take her to therapy sometimes on Mondays, right?
sometimes,
And that consists of 3 therapists,
correct.
right? We've established OT, PT, and ST, so that would be 3 appointments. At any of those providers on Mondays, do you make any decisions?
No,
And then going back to another point, that Mario worked, and I didn't, and I stayed home with Aslan, right?
correct,
Is that right? So I was Aslan's caregiver, primary caregiver,
correct,
and we've established that from at least 1 year old, to 5 and a half. Okay, on another subject, going back to the March 19th, 2021 incident. One, you established I wasn't arrested. Was I issued a citation?
I do not know,
Alright, so you don't know that part.
no, I don't. I don't know if they gave you one or not.
Okay, I didn't get a citation. And, why is that funny?
Because you're testifying and it's impermissible.
Sorry, I'm not,
If it turns out to be important, well, let's just get to the, your side said she received
As
a
an offer of proof,
trespass.
she was absolutely
Okay.
criminally charged.
Okay,
I
For
was
what
not
occurred on the
charged that
19th.
day.
okay,
She was just not charged that day.
okay,
I
okay.
was not charged for that incident.
You were charged for items you took from his bank account on that day.
Okay, let's proceed.
said it was at the
The
house.
last question
So now we're
was,
doing 2 different things.
oh, the last question, the witness said, it didn't,
Oh, I saw
it
that
didn't
day.
contradict you, she didn't know what, if you were cited or
What
not.
was I, what was I there for?
You told me you were here to pick up stuff.
Okay, and,
I was upstairs.
okay, and where was Aslan?
She wasn't with me.
So was she with me?
I do not know.
You don't know if Aslan was there that day?
She wasn't at that house.
So
I
you're
don't
saying-
know if she was with you or who she was with.
I don't know. I can't answer that because she's like breaking every court rule there is twice. And the judges was like, it's okay. It's okay.
So you're saying that you don't know where Aslan was on March 19th? You're saying,
She had to be with you because Mario was out of town.
okay,
I don't know where you had her.
so you're saying you didn't see her?
No, I did not.
I wanna make sure that we establish that, right? She did not see Aslan on March 19th, and she was not at the house.
The testimony was that she did not see her.
So,
Yeah, and so.
was she with you, was she with you?
Yeah, she was with me.
Okay.
At the house,
Okay,
and I have a video of it.
very good.
So she was with you at the house?
Right, so if she doesn't even remember that, how's she remembering all this other stuff? Like, she doesn't remember that Aslan's sitting right there. I have a video with her in it. They're both in it.
I wasn't aware
Okay,
Aslan was
but
there.
here's what I'm having trouble. If you're trying to discredit her, but you're not, I don't know how important this incident is.
It's really not
After
that important,
three-
but I have
after
to say
three-
something,
Right,
otherwise I'm
it's
deemed
3 years
guilty.
ago, I'm having trouble seeing how it's a real significance, but that
It's
being.
not as significant.
Okay,
It's
but
not
that
at
being,
all, but I have to address
okay,
it.
but that being said, I'm having a little, you may be able to help me on this. You're
Okay.
trying to discredit her without denying the basic facts. She said you were there to obtain items, and you say you were there to obtain items, or were you there for some of the, well, go ahead, I think
Yeah,
you're both
so
saying the
that's
same
our
thing.
point. So I was there to obtain items. What items?
I do not know. what
Okay, so you don't know what items.
No.
Okay.
I was.
Okay, well, here's what,
I
is
was
the
aware.
offer, the offer of proof is what? You were there for what purpose, according to you?
I was there to get my dog
Okay,
and some of Aslan's things.
she's not, doesn't seem to be denying that, but I'm not sure what the conflict is. I'm not sure why it's so important after 3 years, but if it is to you guys, let's go ahead, go.
I'm just
Okay.
trying to say, like, I was able to take my stuff. I just want to get my stuff, and then there's no evidence.
So
and
far,
there's
this
nothing
witness
happened,
has
so
not seriously contradicted
not.
that.
This is not a big deal. It's over
Right.
and done with. But now I have to address it, and I need to.
You have to address it if she's disagreeing with you. You said you're there to obtain this, you did bring up a tangential issue that both parties are now focused on where was Aslan, but as to
Okay.
why you were there, you're saying you were there to retrieve items plus your puppy, and she said, yes, you were there to retrieve items, that's what you told her, so where's the disagreement?
I'm not disagreeing with that part.
Okay,
That
okay,
part, yeah.
okay,
Like,
okay.
I'm
Okay.
I'm disagreeing with that. That you know it was this big to do, and I was arrested, and I was charged.
Okay.
There was no incident.
See what
It
she
wasn't a big deal.
knows, see
It
what
wasn't a
she
big deal
knows,
at all.
if she knows something about that, you can explore. It sounds like she said she doesn't know if you got she's not disagreeing with you, she says, maybe you didn't get a citation, I don't know, you
Yeah,
said you didn't. She
Yeah,
said.
it wasn't. It's not
Okay.
a big a deal, but they brought it up, so.
They did, but they questioned this witness about it, but what you have to concentrate on, not their motivations or the questions. What did the witness say, and do you have some serious truth problem with what the witness said? And right now, it sounds like no one really does. On an issue which seems to the court something of a non-issue, but if you guys wanna.
Well, I guess I just didn't know what level I needed to address that. I wasn't.
Well, basically,
arrested or charged or
fair
anything.
enough, and if you wanna clear that, once you establish the witness isn't contradicting you on that, and that you were there to pick up items, unless there's something seriously in dispute, like she says you throw stuff at her or hit her and you didn't, then that might be something you wanna question her about, but I don't think you guys are in conflict here.
Well, I guess it was Mr. Friedman that said I was arrested and cited and all
Okay.
this other stuff, and I wasn't, so it really wasn't her, it was him. but-
Okay, but then you save
do I
it,
address that?
right, but then you save it for him, even though he wasn't there, if he's insisting, oh no, she was arrested, then take it up with him, but this witness is agreeing, I don't know what happened.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
she's not
fine.
disagreeing
I'll-
with you.
I'll-
Let me
I'll
put it
find-
that way.
That's a good basis, she
Okay.
didn't know, that's
Okay.
good enough.
Good, okay, perfect. Okay, but you can pursue anything else you want with her on the testimony, but that incident, we probably don't need to spend more time on it.
That's it.
I'm sorry?
That's,
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear, Mr.
Sorry,
Friedman,
sorry, I
based
was
on
just-
that, any,
I have nothing further, Judge.
thanks so much. Is this witness subject to recall? If she is, if she's not, she can remain in the court if she wants. She probably may have no desire to do that, but she's not subject to recall, is she?
Not by me, Judge.
Okay,
She's not under my subpoena.
okay, is she, you?
I had it yesterday. I wore it yesterday. And the best part about the grandma shirt is it's on the front and the back.
Witness for any purpose later on.
no.
Okay, okay. Now, let's accommodate the other individual, and there does have to be a finding placed on the record that the other individual was
And to either stay or to. leave,
present for
whatever.
prior proceedings, and what would be,
I feel that someone needs to make sure that you are taking the proper quality medication at all times. I feel you need someone in your life who will test out your medications and make sure that medically they're okay for you. I just feel that way. On a completely separate note, here's my address.
be the name of the one out?
Gloria.
Hello?
Glow.
Okay.
Like Gloria,
Thank
like
you
the
for coming.
abbreviation for Gloria? Okay, could you please, let's see, there's another,
I mean, to be honest, I don't really plan on calling her as a witness. It would be a very narrow incident.
okay, let's just,
But it's a non-
let's just,
it's really a non-issue
let's
that
just
I'm
deal
hoping
with
we
it
can
now,
get over.
let's just spend 5 minutes dealing with it now. If the worst thing
Okay.
is that it's not relevant or helpful, that's
Okay.
better than, in my experience is then, if we don't deal with it, then we invite problems later, like I would have called this witness and they would have helped me on this or that.
Okay,
So just in an abundance of caution, if you called her, she'll testify, and it's already on the record though, that although she wasn't here today, she was in the audience at prior hearings. So if that's important, that's in the record, so, go ahead.
And I'm sorry, I don't know what her name.
Oh, Glow.
Okay.
I have more shirts like that. So we had a party. And at the party we all were supposed to bring a funny t-shirt. And we wrapped them all up so no one knew what the t-shirts were. And then we played a game. We played a dice game to win the shirts, and then we were allowed to steal the packages and everything. It went on for a while, and it was hilarious. The whole game was so funny. But both of my daughters were there, my son was there, and my one daughter's boyfriend was there, and all of them live here. So all of the shirts are in this house. And I'm gonna wear the one that I got. You're gonna love it. Donald, there is a person named Kingsley in the shirt, but it had nothing to do with you. I'm just saying. And I'm gonna wear the one that my sweet, innocent middle child got. Oh my gosh. Innocent as the driven snow, pure as the driven snow is my middle child. And she got this shirt. And I got my daughter's boyfriend the best shirt. He ended up with my shirt. It was I think it was the cutest little unicorn with flowers and a rainbow. It's the cutest shirt ever. And it said, "My yeast infection itches." That's the one my maybe someday son-in-law got. It was a great party. I'll wear the shirts. I'll wear each of the shirts.
Ms. Hurd, if it helps you, there's a little button.
Oh, shit, sorry.
There's a little
Sorry.
button, there's a little button right there, and you can mute the
Okay.
microphone when you're talking. Now,
How-
when
How do
you're,
I,
see this little button right here?
I didn't know that. Do you hold it, or do you just push it
You
once?
just hold it down. There you go. And then that way,
Wait.
But then her red came back on red.
well, you gotta hold it.
For how long?
So while you're speaking,
Oh, the whole
table in
time.
the way that you
Oh,
want
you
to
have to hold
record
it
it.
while you do, okay, just
Yeah, that's right, it has to be held the whole time. Someone must come up with a modification on that pretty soon.
Do you know what's funny, Judge, is actually, I've been in another courtroom where they're actually set to lock, and I had mine locked into trial one time for about an hour there, until I realized it had been off, so
So
they're
you're
going
gonna
to
have
catch
to
me.
remain standing for just a brief moment. Raise your right hand, the court clerk's gonna swear you in.
Okay.
You do solemnly swear, we do solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, under penalties.
I have new fashion
Yes.
goals. Yep, that right there.
Thank you.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
Gloria Hurd.
Very good. Are you grandma, the other grandma?
Yep.
Okay, so we have both grandmas today, very good. Now, you were in, you didn't, you were here today, but you weren't in the court for any of the proceedings up to this point today, correct?
Correct.
But the earlier proceeding, you were in the whole time though, right?
Most of it.
Okay, very good. Did you want to voir dire on that issue before,
I'm satisfied with
Okay,
the
okay,
questions, and the
okay.
record would speak for itself.
Okay. please?
Do I need to question her right now? Or do I need to state, what is the protocol?
Well, basically, if she has something to offer about a particular incident, let's just get it out of the way now rather than having to worry later. Sometimes people say, well, had I had my mom or someone testify about this or that, that would have helped me. It's best if we just handle it now quickly. If it turns out to be irrelevant, fine, but
Okay.
rather than the absence of it, if it turns out to be relevant, we don't want the absence of it, so.
So the only incident that I would bring up was something that was brought up before with them diving back into the
Okay,
past.
but if your mom knows anything about that, you can.
Yeah, she was just there that
Okay.
day, so,
Okay,
no, okay.
were you planning to call her as just this incident or as a character witness as to your parenting or just a
No,
witness
just
to
as
this
for the
incident?
incident,
Just this
for the
incident?
specific incident, the actual, details that were involved at this
Okay,
incident.
does she, on that other issue, does she have direct knowledge of your parenting skills? Was she heavily involved or living with you at any point?
When Aslan was,
Okay, I mean, if you wanna pursue any of that, you can, go ahead. Okay, please, if you could.
okay, so should I also ask her about that incident, or wait, I don't know. that's what
You
I'm
know,
saying.
if she knows about it, and it's best to err on the side of caution, cause my experience anecdotally, which may not apply to this case, is that some people, it's more likely someone will say later, gee, if I'd gotten to question my mom as to this witness, this incident, it would've helped. So,
The lawyer is having a
if there's a
fit
risk
right
it's
now.
irrelevant by having this testimony, no real harm, no foul, cause we're not gonna spend a lot of time on it. But it's best if we hear it now, if there is anything. If it turns out to be not helpful,
Okay.
that's fine, but I don't wanna be confronted with the absence of the testimony later if it happens to be alleged as having been important after all. So if she knows anything about this incident, or you want her to opine on your parenting of Aslan, if she has enough of a frame of reference for that, you can pursue that at this juncture.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about this incident. So, let's see. I have to think of how to word this. 'cause
And
now-
we were referring to this, them saying the March 19th?
No, it was, in February of 2022.
Oh, a different incident, okay.
Yeah, not that, and so
Okay.
do we still need,
Okay,
I just don't know, but they keep going back in the past, and I don't seem to get over it, so I would like to get over this part.
what was the incident in, at an earlier hearing established as to February 2022?
Mr. Perry was saying that I tried to abscond with the child and,
Oh, okay.
had called the cops.
Okay, you may wanna, if she knows anything about it that's helpful to you, you may wanna ask her.
Okay. Do you recall, a visitation with Aslan, approximately in, February of 2022?
Yes.
You have to talk,
I said yes.
okay.
I heard you.
I just saw your headphone open.
It's very unusual for somebody not to hear me.
Okay, this incident, Do you recall, was it a visitation?
Yes, it was.
Okay, with Aslan.
Yes.
Do you remember the time? Approximately, I know.
It was, see, the lights were on at the park, so must have been evening,
Okay, so evening, it was an evening visitation with Aslan,
like early evening, not late evening, yeah.
and you never picked her up.
No.
Well, let's see what happened, because this is the wrong mom, and we already heard
No, you
this.
didn't?
Part 11. Part 10. 13, 14, 15, 16. 18. Okay, it's the only video that was out of order. And it's only 10 minutes long. So we should have watched this before we watched this. But we're just going to play it. It's 10 minutes long, and then we'll be back on track. And none of the other videos look like they're out of order.
No.
But it wasn't you.
It's presumably you two. There's no mystery here. Was it you two? Is that the offer of proof?
It was me.
Right, okay. Okay.
So, your routine with her, because you didn't take her to school, you didn't pick her up. Your involvement with her, while I was there, this is the time period while I was there. Your involvement with her was it the same?
I worked at the time.
Okay.
The judge is yawning.
And let's see. Were you aware of any extracurricular activities she did during that time frame?
I don't remember.
So you don't remember any activities that she was involved in from August 2017 to February 2021?
Like I said, I worked a lot of hours.
When did you stop working?
After COVID,
So when would you roughly say you didn't work anymore?
COVID was 2020. So after
Yeah, we know.
2020.
We all know.
So, what a year, okay. And once you stopped working, were you aware of any involvement or any activities that Aslan was involved in?
No, not that I remember.
Okay. Do you remember, let me see how to phrase this.
I guess. Yep. Oh, I'm not muted. Hi, guys. Yeah, we're doing the whole thing.
Did you ever watch Aslan?
In that time frame?
Yeah.
Yes.
How often would you say you watched Aslan?
Whenever I was needed.
And how often would you say that is? Or was?
I can't give it an exact date, an exact number.
Would you say weekly, monthly, quarterly, once a month, like, just approximate?
Maybe 5 times a month.
And what would you watch her? How long would you watch her for?
Depending on when I was needed. So,
Approximately.
could be the whole day,
So you would have her for the whole day?
sometimes.
What, was this after, about, when did you have her for the whole day? Approximately, what time period would this be?
I can remember several times I used to have to leave my business to come and watch her because you had a migraine.
And how often would that be?
A couple times a month.
So, it is now 2 times a month, is it, or roughly around 2 times a month?
For the migraine.
So 2 times a month. You had to leave work,
Leave my shop, yes.
and you had to come watch Aslan for the whole day.
While you were having a headache, yeah.
And how many hours would you say that was?
Probably 3 or 4.
And approximately how old was Aslan during this time?
A year.
Okay. So she was about a year old when you're referring to this time period.
Mhm.
Now, she got older? Or was it, are you just saying it's just when she was a year old, or?
Just when she was a year old, as far as I can remember.
Okay. And when you had her for a couple times, a few hours, what was your routine with her?
Mostly she slept. She ate and she slept. She was an infant.
Yes, she was very small. As she got older to toddler age, was that a regular occurrence to watch her as a toddler or only as an infant?
Mainly as an infant. Unless unless you had to go somewhere.
And how often would that be?
I don't recall.
Can you do approximates on that?
I don't recall.
Okay. So you primarily just remember as an infant? Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And were you aware of, any time that Aslan and I were not at the, like, I don't know this, that we were not at the house? Oh. Are you aware of any times that Aslan and I would leave, the state?
Yes.
Okay. When would you say that was?
I don't know the exact year, but the summer that your son got married and the following year, you stayed in Colorado for the summer.
Okay, so you're aware of 2 summers that Aslan and I were in Colorado.
Correct.
And you said the year that he got married, which was 2019.
I don't know exact year that he was married.
He
I'm
was
saying
married in
it was that year.
2019, and then the following year, 2020. All right. So 2019 and 2020, the entire summer, Aslan and I were not.
Okay, Fozzie, I'm going to give you this one. I'm going to give it to you. I'm not going to argue. Shredded wheat is nasty. No. And when it gets mushy, it's even more nasty. No. Ugh.
Even in the state, we were in another state.
Correct.
Do you remember the time frame?
No.
Just the summer. Okay. 2000s, part wouldn't really be 17. So 2018, 2019, and a little bit of 2020.
I'd rather have
When
cardboard.
Ashlyn and I were in the house, or living, when we were there, not in Colorado. Sorry, I have to think of how to word things. We'll just go with those 2 years, 2019, 2000. Okay, so we were there, we would say spring and fall, is that correct? Of 2019 and 2020?
As much as I can
Yeah,
recall,
we're gone for
yes.
the summer, okay, I'm just confirming that. Okay, so during, let's say those time periods, spring and fall of 2019 and spring and fall of 2020. Did Mario ever call you to check in?
No,
Alright. Did he ever, ask, or tell you about any concerns he had?
no,
Y'all are nasty.
I'm done, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Friedman.
Would it be okay, Judge, if I take a quick restroom break?
Yeah, sure, let's take 10 and we'll be back.
I could be 5.
Okay.
Wash your
Well, in
hands.
February, it gets dark at 4:30.
Okay. This visitation, who all, was there?
Myself, my husband Danny, my son Malachi, you, Aslan, and Mario.
Alright. And do you remember the cops being called?
Yes.
Do you know why they were called?
Well, I found out after. I didn't know why they were called at the time, but yes.
And, why were they called?
One of the officers had told me the reason why they were called is that the father was in fear that our daughter was taking her daughter away. And do I know anything about that? And I said, I know that they're up at the lake with my son. And then he, of course, he asked how old my son was. Then he's 13 today. That would have made him 10 in March. So he was around 10. And so he said, do you know what this is about? And I said, no, I don't. I didn't know the police were called. I just saw you guys showing up. And do you know where your daughter is? I said, yeah, she was up by the lake, and we were down by the other swings and things. Okay, so that's how I knew that they were called. I found out more after they had interrogated you and Mario, but I didn't hear a whole lot of stuff because then Malachi and I were playing with Aslan to keep her distracted so she didn't see any negativity going on with her mom and dad. So you guys are at one part of the park,
Is that bad?
and Malachi and I and Dad took Aslan to the other part of the park where she could climb around and play with her other little friends that she had made during that time.
So, basically they were called because, Mario had called them to say I was trying to leave with Aslan, like,
Yes.
leave the park.
Okay, can I say one thing? Am I allowed to offer something?
If it's in response to a
Well,
question.
Mario had come to us first. Because Dad and I were sitting at the original place where we were all playing at the area that we're talking about, where eventually you and the cops and Mario were here, and Malachi and Aslan and you were playing over here, and we were in
He wants you too, Malachi. He wants you too.
our lawn chairs and just sitting, hanging there. And about halfway through, Mario had come up and asked if we knew where you were. We said, yeah, she's up at the lake. And so then he left our presence, and after that is when the police had come.
When, he came and asked you where I was.
Mhm.
At that point, like the time frame.
Just look at your monitor, and you can see the judge,
Malachi,
purple hair.
To the
To the
other
lake.
section of, how long you'd been up there before he came and asked you?
I would say, how long had you been gone from where we were? Probably about, you mean, when did you tell me, Mom, is it okay if I go up to the lake with Aslan? Malachi's gonna go with
I
me.
obviously left.
Right, but you came and told me what you were doing.
Nobody's watched Children of the Corn? Nobody? Gosh.
And said, I'm gonna go up to the lake. Are you okay with that? And I go, yeah, I'm fine with that. So that was about halfway because
What
by
was the time frame between the, and then Mario?
within,
asked
I would say, 45 minutes.
45 minutes?
But we were there for 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
The first hour was that. The second hour was the taken up by all the police and all that.
Okay.
So but within 40, you had asked me. 40 minutes.
You don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
So basically, we were at the other section of the park
Uh-huh.
for 45 minutes.
We were all together for 45 minutes, and then you had said, "Mom,
Okay,
I'd
you're
like
not-
to."
hold on, stop. I obviously had to leave his line of sight. That for him to ask you where I am.
Okay.
So I'm not asking you. So I walked up to the other side of the park, with Malachi Aslam. He came and asked you. Did he ask you 5 minutes after I left? Did he ask you 10 minutes? What is the time period from when I had walked
The
across?
time frame would be like maybe about 10 minutes.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. 10 minutes.
We knew what you meant. We understood.
So we, and then he leaves and you didn't know what was going on. And
No.
then, when did the cops show up after that?
Well, the cops showed up.
Approximately about after he asked you. I know it's hard, right?
Yeah, maybe 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay.
Wow, that's a long time.
This part of the park, so Mario's saying I'm leaving, trying to leave with Aslan.
Mhm.
But I'm also with Malachi.
And by that point, Malachi had met a friend.
So, and you and Dad were there.
Yeah.
Did you and Dad drive me?
To the park?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did I have a vehicle there?
No.
Did I have keys?
No.
So it was your vehicle and I came with you.
Yes.
And from where you were sitting and where I was, where was your car?
Where we were sitting?
Was I walking towards
Our car
your
was
car
right-
or away from your car?
Oh, no, far away because Mario was parked
Okay.
next to us, kind of close to where we were parked.
So, in order for me to leave with Aslan, unless, I guess to abscond with Aslan, I don't have a vehicle. To get to your vehicle, I was going the opposite direction?
Correct.
That's what I'm asking. So,
Correct.
from where I was, it was you and Dad in the middle of where the vehicle is. And your vehicle
Correct.
was parked next to Mario's.
Pretty close, yes.
And I didn't have the keys.
No.
So, okay, so, did I even have, let's see, did I know, you know, okay, so we'd walked across the street, other side of the park. You and Dad, and then, cops show up, that's when they interviewed you, right?
They didn't actually interview me. They showed up. One officer had told me what's going on. That was before I knew anything else was going on. And then you had come down with Malachi and Aslan, and you told me that the police had been called. Could I please oversee Aslan while they're talking with you? And you asked one of the officers, "Is that okay?" And they said yes, because there was a male there and a female there.
Okay, so, for me to abscond with Aslan, I would have to have done it on foot
Yes.
with
Dra-
Malachi as well,
dragging your brother and his friend along with you.
and going where?
I have no idea.
Okay.
By that point, that park was out where there's no,
okay,
there's neighborhood
that's
now,
good.
now,
Yeah.
there was nothing there.
So, I'm just trying to, the time you said, so you said earlier in your testimony that it was about 45 minutes-ish, and then the second half was spent dealing with the cops.
Right.
So the cops were called about halfway through.
Correct,
So this was in the middle of my visitation when they were
Correct.
called.
correct,
So it wasn't at the end, and I was trying to,
correct,
okay, that's what I want to establish too. So it was during the middle of the visitation,
correct.
okay. Were you aware of any directives that Mario had given as to the area that I was allowed to be in, or a vicinity, or
No,
did he say anything to you and to you about the vicinity that we could, or,
no,
okay, so as far as you're aware, the park, the entire park was okay?
correct.
And then after the officers, once they did what they had to do, did they say anything else to you, or did they leave, or what was?
They didn't leave it, they didn't say any more
Okay.
to me.
They just left.
Yeah, because I was kind of within earshot, and then that's when we realized that I needed to take the kids farther away.
Okay.
Going to the side.
And then eventually they left and
Yes,
nothing, okay. I think that's it.
Very
And then-
good. I'm sorry, you had more.
said there was one more thing that you said I could do, oh, my parenting, okay. So sister up there, are you aware of my parenting?
yes,
Okay. You're aware that I have a son,
yes,
and how old is he?
30.
And how old was I when I had him?
Let's see, how old are you now? 19.
And,
Oh, that's right, you were 18. Okay. Or you're a teenager.
yes. So were you around when I was parenting him?
Yes,
So you're aware of my parenting style going back, or the kind of parent I am going back at least 30 years?
oh, yes,
So that encompasses two of my children.
yes.
Okay. So, let's see. What would you say about my parenting style?
You're obsessive. Very, very obsessed with every little thing. The way they look, the way they appear, the way their actions, their well-being, their education, their
Was I like that with Nelson?
yes, yeah. I wasn't allowed to take Nelson anywhere unless I had complete. I had to tell you who all we were going to see, why we were going to see him,
So,
and then you called me like about every 20 minutes, make sure you're still okay.
and Nelson, was he special needs?
No,
He's a typical child?
I don't know what you can consider typical, because
He's a bug. Would you say that Nelson, warranted?
all your being an obsessive mom, no, but
Did he benefit from it?
of course he did, because now he's obsessive too.
And how's that?
And everything he does, he's very meticulous. Everything needs to be done in the correct way. I mean, that's what's made him where he's at now.
So you're well of Nelson's, how would you define, how to say, my involvement with, I guess my involvement with, my kids, all levels. I guess you already said that, no, it's upset. That would encompass their all areas. So, you're saying I'm detailed,
Extremely.
and I'm like that with both kids?
Yes, very much so.
It's not a particular kid?
No.
or a particular person.
Nope.
It's the way I am with my
Yep.
children.
Yep.
And you're saying now.
And I have to make you back off of Malachi, cause you expect that with Malachi, and he's not your son.
They're
Am I allowed to say
perfectionists.
stuff like that?
Okay. So, again, so that's my style.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just very, would you say I'm an involved parent? Involved
Extremely.
On all of
You're,
it.
you're very, very hands-on.
Okay.
Mrs. Pearl, I think. Mrs. Pearl.
Which certainly, how is that positive? How does that benefit the kids?
Judge, you're right. The dad does interrupt. He just did right there. Yep.
It benefits them knowing that they have support away from whatever environment that they're involved in. It benefits them knowing that what they do away and beyond you, like at school or at church with their friends, that they have the security of knowing that when they come back and report to you, when you give them the third degree, then they know they are prepared to report to you every little thing that
Because that's, again, my style.
took place, yeah.
Okay.
But it benefits them because it makes them selective when they're away from you. Well, I shouldn't say they. It made Nelson selective when he was away from you because he knew he'd have to answer to you. So that made him have to make good choices.
Right, so Nelson, alright, that's good enough, I'm not gonna.
Very good.
I don't
Mr.
want-
Friedman?
yeah.
Mr. Friedman?
You pass it, Lisa. Okay, I heard you refer to as glow, I don't wanna use an informal
Oh,
term for you.
Glow, I love that.
Okay, and
Please,
I think it
please, yeah.
fits you perfectly, if I may say.
Oh,
I love the
thank
whole
you.
thing. So Glow, it's a pleasure to meet you. I have
Thank
seen
you.
you on a number of occasions. I would just prefatory statements because I'm here to do a job, right? So
Okay,
I know very much that you love your granddaughter. I've seen you here supporting her cause and your daughter's cause. And nothing I'm gonna say should in any way impair that, right? This is just my job. You
okay,
understand that? right?
sure,
Okay.
absolutely.
So you testified at some length, under questioning from your daughter about her parenting style,
Right.
correct?
Mhm.
You used a word I thought was interesting.
Obsessive.
Obsessive, you continue to use it. I believe you even went so far as to indicate that at times you have to tell her even, I think you said, back off of Malachi, because that's not her son. Is that what you
Yeah, she realized she thinks she's helping, and I'm not obsessive, so,
I understand.
okay.
So I wanna, because we're talking about, just to focus it, because the discussion was about your knowledge of her parenting and sort of her arc of parenting,
Mhm.
right? That makes sense.
Correct, sure.
And in particular, well, we talked about Malachi, who's your son, and we talked about Ms. Hurd's adult son. The court's purview here today is Aslan, you're aware of that? right?
Correct.
Okay. So in particular, the judge needs to focus on the period of
That's a trick question. That's a trick question. You're trying to trick me because they keep going around and around and around and around in circles. So, yes to both.
time that Aslan's been alive,
Okay,
right?
great.
Now, is it not the case that for an extended period of time, some 3 to 4 years following Aslan's birth, that you had no contact with Ms. Hurd?
That's correct.
Okay. And was it in fact the case that you had an order of protection against Ms. Hurd?
No,
No, there was no court order prohibiting that contact at all?
no,
You never sought the assistance of law enforcement in any way?
no.
Never sought the assistance of any court process in any way?
In regards to not
Between
seeing Aslan,
No, Ms. Hurd.
I'm sorry, what did you say this level of, what was the chronology of this estrangement period?
So following her birth, about a year or so, following Aslan's birth, and then for a period of 3 or 4 years that you had no contact
there was
with-
5 years that we had, that we mutually agreed not to see each other.
5-year period of time.
Yes.
And that was from 2017 to 2022?
Yes.
Okay, so from 2017 until 2022, not because of a court order.
Actually, it would be November 2021.
Oh, okay, about a 5-year period in there, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, and during that period of time, there was no contact between you and your
Correct,
daughter?
correct.
Okay. And you said that was a mutual agreement?
Yes,
Okay, and I'm to presume, was that because of some conflict between the two of you?
yes,
Okay, and did that conflict get to such a point that you felt that despite it being your daughter, right, and you loving her very much, you could not be in her life, is that right?
I felt like it was better, it was better for both of us to be separate from each other, because she had her family, I had my family, and as you've already heard me say, that there is a difference of parenting there.
Sure.
And I wasn't going to be able to be supportive of what needed to be done.
Understood.
And so she and I had a face-to-face conversation, and I realized during that conversation that I would probably be a better mom by not being there at that point. Never dreaming it was gonna go that long, but it was a choice that we both agreed with, yes.
And so, for that extended period of time, by extension, unfortunately, and I'm sure it was tough on you emotionally, you had no interaction with Ms. Hurd and Aslan to observe the two of them together.
Correct.
Okay. So the sum total of your experience with her parenting of Aslan would be for that very limited period following Aslan's birth, right, about a year or so, is that correct?
No, she was born in May, and it happened September 13th.
Okay,
So May, June, July, August, 5 months.
Okay, so about a 5-month period of time following her birth, and then that doesn't pick up again until some about 5 years later.
Correct.
Which is in and around the time that this court process is going on, and there's already court orders regarding
I'm
visitation.
sorry, so was it
Correct.
2021 or 22 they reestablished contact?
It was not November of 20, we're in 23.
We're 20
Wait, we're in 24, okay. 23, 22, 20, it was November of 21 when you
Yeah,
called me.
so,
Okay, so from September 2017 to November of 2021 was the period of no contact between the two of you?
Correct.
Thank you.
and are you aware of the fact that as a result of this court's orders, that in January of 2022, approximately 60 days following you reestablishing a relationship, that this court ordered Mario have sole custody of that?
Yes.
You are aware?
Yep.
Okay, so that was about a 2-month period of time following you establishing a relationship at all, that all custody was by order of the court assigned to
Correct.
Mario? Okay.
Correct.
And taking you to the February 2022 incident you discussed, were you aware of the fact at that time that because Mario had sole physical and sole legal custody, he was tasked with essentially overseeing any contact between defendant and Aslan?
Well, yeah, I was under the impression that it was supervised visitation under him.
So he was to be supervising, correct?
Right. And then, yeah.
And you're aware of the reason for that supervised visitation and sole custody order, are you not?
I'm not real aware, I just know that he was the supervisor for the visitation.
Are you aware of the
She
fact
kept
that
walking on my
because,
keyboard.
Court generated a pickup order charging the law enforcement to actually take the child back into Mario's care.
Are you talking about this night that we're talking about at the
I'm sorry,
park?
as to scope, I'm talking about the period just prior to that night at the park. In other words, what the orders were at the time that you were there at the park offering observations. Were you aware of what the orders of the court were?
I was aware that he had full custody, yeah.
And that the visit in particular at the park was a supervised visit?
Right.
Okay. Are you aware of the fact that that supervised visit required Mario to maintain what we refer to in the court as eye and earshot, meaning that he could see and hear what was going on? Are you aware of that?
Am I aware
Yeah.
of that particular?
That would be what supervised visitation means.
Well, I would, to be honest with you, I wasn't sitting there thinking about that. We
Okay.
were at the park,
Okay.
and as far as I knew, we were at the park. She had gone to the lake. I didn't go up to the lake to see she could be seen up there.
You couldn't see her.
Well, my back was to where the lake was.
Okay.
I was facing town,
And
where she was back there.
right. I follow you. I think I follow you.
Okay.
And so you mentioned in your testimony that Mario actually first approached you and your
Correct.
husband
Correct.
and asked you where she had gone with Aslan.
Correct.
Okay. So can you conclude from that Mr. Opapari wasn't able to see and hear Aslan at the time?
Would I conclude that? No.
So
Did he want to know where Kimberly and Aslan were?
So-
Yes.
so
But
you're-
that's,
I understand. So your testimony would be that you at the time, a couple preparatory questions. You at the time were unable to see or hear Aslan, correct?
correct.
Okay. And then you
Here?
did see
You said
or hear.
here, yeah.
You could hear Aslan.
Yeah, yeah.
At the
I
time
can hear their voices,
Okay.
but not like every little sound. You know when a child exclaims and is
Sure.
excited?
Sure.
I can hear that.
Okay,
I couldn't hear that, but I couldn't hear
okay.
talk.
Understood, you couldn't hear what was being said or what was
No,
being discussed?
uh-uh,
Just
no,
so
uh-uh.
if there was a loud giggle or a scream or something fun, you could catch that, is that right?
Correct,
Okay, and so then you indicated Mario asked you,
right,
Where were
correct, right.
and I asked you if it followed from that, then that you could conclude that Mario was unable to see or hear what was being discussed at the time. And I
Well, my
asked you-
husband and I both asked each other, why is he asking us that?
Mhm.
Again, our back was to their, in our mind, we knew where they were.
Sure.
So, no, we didn't, concluding something, just, we were grateful to be there, so no.
Sure, and I can appreciate that, and
So,
to be fair,
I don't, I'm,
I get that, and to be fair, and I want to clear, it wasn't your responsibility, was it? To monitor this visit?
no, Kimberly had asked permission for us to be there. Because
Kim-
Mario was supervising, and she had asked if we could be there, and Mario had said yes.
Okay, so Mario had accommodated your ability to be there to spend some
Yeah.
time with Aslan.
Yeah.
But to be fair, it wasn't your responsibility to monitor where Aslan was at the time, right?
No.
It was Mario's.
Sure.
Okay. You did mention though, and I just wanted to be clear, I believe you testified under direct examination from Ms. Hurd that Ms. Hurd had asked you if she could go to the lake with Aslan. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
she'd asked if Malachi, my son, could go with her.
Right,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
she asks you, can I go to the lake with Aslan and Malachi, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and you already said, I believe, wasn't your responsibility for the supervision, so wouldn't you agree it really wasn't, you weren't sort of the person to have asked that question of?
The only reason she had asked that question, understanding, I'm presuming, because she didn't say this.
I understand.
So reliving this over and over and over again, I'm presuming the reason why she came to ask was she wanted Malachi to be able to go with her. So she would ask for my son to be able to go with her and Aslan up to the lake.
So your understanding then, and that was very helpful and clarified, your understanding then was that you were presuming that your daughter had the ability to go where she pleased, and she was simply asking you, could she take your son
Sure.
with her and Aslan?
Right.
Okay. And so at the time that she asked you, you didn't believe in any way you were giving her permission to go anywhere. It was simply that you were providing permission for Malachi to go with her.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
And because you would recognize that wouldn't be something you could, as in for Aslan, right, because Mario was supervising, that wouldn't be an area you could provide permission, correct?
Yeah, I would just, yeah.
Okay. Court's indulgence, one moment, John.
I got a special clip ready for him, Kelly, for tomorrow. We're going to take a minor break from Hurd, and then we're going to continue with the Hurd after the clip is over.
I'll pass the witness. I'll pass the witness, and thank you for cooperating.
Do you have any follow-up questions? If you do, and they're relatively brief, we'll handle.
Might go, but remember, it's your birthday. You do not have to be here. You can go get drunk with people. Just because I have a special clip for your birthday doesn't mean you have to be involved. You don't have to be involved. You can watch it on replay, crew.
Handle them now. If you think
Yeah.
they're a little more extensive, we'll resume after
No,
lunch.
we'll do,
I'm sorry?
no, we can make it quick.
Okay, but by all means, if it needs to be longer, then you can
But
complete
just
it
a couple
after
of
lunch.
his
That's
points,
okay.
I really wanna move forward, so I'm trying not to keep.
Do you
going
want
back,
to examine, are
Yeah,
you
so let me-
available
I'm
to
just
return after
gonna do
lunch?
just a
Okay.
couple, just
Okay.
a couple real quick, I just
And
have-
then you can complete it after the noon hour, if you want.
Oh.
Okay, she's willing to return.
oh,
Do you want to do all her
I don't have
testimony
time.
after lunch, or do you want to start
No,
now?
we can do after lunch,
Okay,
unless
what
you
do
want me to.
you're available then, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, very good. It's
I was
about
just-
12:10 now. Can we resume at about 1:40?
Yes, I would just ask for an admonishment, unless your honor wants me to do it on voir dire, that obviously because the witness is currently on the stand, I don't believe
Oh.
the defendant should be permitted to confer with the witness during the break.
Were you gonna have
The law's
lunch
very
together? Were you
clear.
gonna have
Yeah.
lunch together, or were you gonna have it
Yeah.
separately?
No. Well, if she sits in the front seat and I sit in the back seat, is that considered separate?
You know what, I'm not gonna take long.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep this short.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try, and if it goes
I
more
wasn't
than a couple
implying
minutes.
anyone would, it's
Okay.
just for the
Right.
appearances, that's all,
Okay.
quite literally.
No, and I agree.
But I hadn't thought of that, but now that you mention it.
No,
yeah.
that's fine, I just,
Yeah.
a couple quick points
Okay.
on this, I can wrap this up, okay. So, we've established there was a period that we had, we weren't in contact. I don't need to get into the details, okay? You would say that, whatever our disagreement was. You said you did have direct observation of my parenting with that,
That I didn't from that point on.
that you didn't during that period, right?
Correct.
Okay, but you were aware
Very
of my
aware.
parenting with
Well,
Aslan.
Yeah, am I allowed to just say things or do I have to wait for a question?
Well, it should be in response to the,
So how were you aware?
Through grandma.
Which is,
My mom. Your grandma. Her great grandma.
and where was great grandma?
She was at Brooklyn. Brookdale Assisted Living
Assisted living, okay.
on Russell and
And-
Eastern.
And
Thank you for asking. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay, so while we were had a falling out, it was not like I had fallen off the face of the earth. We were still aware to some degree. Yeah, and again, you said we had a disagreement with parenting a little bit. Have I ever claimed to be perfect?
No, you get upset because we expect you to be perfect.
Have I admitted my faults?
Yeah,
Have I changed?
continually.
Have I grown?
Continually.
Have I learned?
Continually.
So I've made mistakes.
Have you made mistakes?
I don't have.
Did you say what?
So I have made
Oh,
mistakes.
continually.
Right. I don't ever claim to be perfect.
No.
Do I try to learn from my mistakes?
Yes.
And how successful am I at learning from my mistakes?
It depends on whose viewpoint it is. On Dad, my viewpoint, we think you're great. But to hear you talk, you think you haven't arrived nowhere near close.
Bottom line is that from the period before then to the period after, would you say I've changed as a person?
Yes.
And then, that's right there. And as far as the visitation, because I know you touched on that, like the orders and what it entailed and stuff. And you said you were not aware of specific orders, is that correct?
Right. You had
As
told me that Mario had said that you had supervised visitation, and then
But
you
were
had
not
asked.
aware of the specifics.
I didn't know. That's all I knew is that because he had full custody, but he was offering
Did you ever see
supervised.
any specifics in writing as to the details?
No,
of that?
no,
Okay.
no,
Okay,
no. I never saw
that's
it.
it, that's it,
You were just telling me, and then you'd asked.
that's it, that's what I
Okay.
needed.
All right.
Um,
Mom, shut up.
I wanna move forward, but I have to address some of their stuff, otherwise it comes.
Well, in regards to your parenting, and the question's not being asked, did you know anything about during the time I was gone? Yeah, I did. How did I know? Because you would go to, what?
I
go
presume the,
ahead, go ahead.
okay, I just.
But keep in mind, if the source of her parenting is not from your direct observation, but what someone told you,
That's
it's not
fine,
that
it's
helpful.
not,
Right, that's
It's
all
just a
I was gonna say,
generality.
Judge, that's all.
All right.
You were absolutely.
parents can, okay. yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it was, because the mutual was my mom. And so,
Alright.
it was
Okay.
through that. So, that's how I got to see Aslan, was
Okay.
when she visited.
And from, I guess,
My mom.
did my parenting style drastically change during that period, to your knowledge?
Drastically changed from what? Or
The way I was?
you were the same way with her that you were with
Right,
Nelson?
So that's, okay. I'm trying, yeah, I don't want, it's good enough for me.
Then you're passing the witness? You're done. Okay, I personally have nothing further. Thank you
Okay,
very
excellent.
much.
Okay, it's 12:15 now. Let's reconvene at 1:45, please.
What'd you say?
1:45.
1:45, an hour and a half.
You guys get.
Very good. Let's get a sense of what remains in terms of witnesses and who's gonna call them or recall them or whatever. Let's start with plaintiff's side. What do you have left either in your case in chief or examining their witnesses from your.
Well, my understanding, Judge, is where we broke, I know we took some people out of order.
Right.
Where we broke was, my client was on the stand under direct examination
Correct.
from the defendant. I presumed what would happen is that we would conclude that, then I would do sort of my, just to save time, rather than recalling people, that I would go through that with Mr. Opari. And then candidly, as I told Your Honor, when we were, there's a number of things already in evidence and testimony that I'll continue to elicit regarding those documents. I don't, I'm not gonna say I don't have a case in chief, but the order was for remand and for additional findings. I'm here to give you the additional fodder for those findings, however you feel you need to make them. But I do kind of feel the defendant has a clear perspective on where she wants to go, and I thought the court was giving her the opportunity.
God, I feel so bad for all of those teachers. Oh my gosh. They get paid so little, they do so much. And the nurses and doctors, when she takes Aslan into an appointment, oh my gosh. Holy cow.
The opportunity to try to do that.
Right, and as far as that issue while we're here, and it's a little bit of uncharted territory, it's a most unique remand. To rarely receive a remand, receive this one's very, very unique. It seems to, as you say, on the one hand, beef up the findings as to two issues that are not really in dispute anymore, so legal custody and supervised visits. So
I
in
agree,
a
Judge.
sense, it seems to be saying, though, do a custodial, and it could only be interpreted if there's a concession to those two issues, and yet there's still an insistence by one or both sides that we proceed, it essentially is a custodial do-over, which also causes problems, because usually, again, a do-over is limited to the facts as they existed at that time. But in a child custody case, that's inherently ludicrous, because real life continues to happen during the next year or two. So we are in some largely uncharted waters here. I'm gonna reread the decision to see philosophically what they expected.
If
you know.
I may, because
So you can understand why I'm struggling
I
a little
do.
with this, you
In
know.
preparation, Judge, the way that I read the appellate court decision is they're contending with the opinion in Roe. That is how I read their primary concern, with the exception of that they talk a little bit about child support arrears and an offset for supervised visitation, which I think was very clear from the opinion what they thought you ought to vacate the arrears, and that's not really been discussed. So to me, I read the opinion, and I don't think this is a slanted interpretation, I think this is a true interpretation, is subsequent to the trial, the appellate court decided Roe. Roe said if we're going to do something like a sole physical or a sole legal or both, the court is required to make heightened findings. They found that the order signed by your court didn't have those heightened findings, so they said to Your Honor, either this is remanded to you for additional findings that would meet our new standard of Roe, or conform the terms of your order to what would be in the findings, right? So I firmly, and I've said it all along, I do not believe, and I hope it will never happen, but should this go back in front of the appeals court, I think they would absolutely say,
Don't be too surprised.
well, I would absolutely say that I think that would be, that they would not find that this was designed to
Hi,
be tried de novo, and as though we did not already have the findings that we had, but simply that in light of the Roe opinion and the orders that resulted in your order, that there needed to be some reconciliation. So that has been my perspective, that is sort of my case. I'm certainly prepared, when I examine Mr. Opari, when the defendant's done, to walk through what's already in evidence with him and ask him questions about that to help bolster whatever findings you think you need to make. I know that Your Honor has expressed, and I just want to make it clear, it is not my intention to continue to talk about 2021 and 2022. I have told you all along, I believe that the matters being presented by the defendant more properly belonged in a motion to modify, but that's not where we are. We're on remand from an appeal that she took. So I have to refer to the record that existed, and I have to continue that, and certainly update the court, because I agree with you, it would be nonsense to say, we have a child, let's ignore what happened. So, update you what's occurred, but as I told Your Honor, it's just been a very limited amount of additional facts and information since the trial because of the order that resulted, the amount of time that the defendant had or didn't have, the fact that it was supervised for a period she did. You see what I'm saying? So that's sort of where I am, Judge. And I just want to be very clear on that. I don't think it's a do-over. I don't think the court intended that at all. I don't think there's anything in that opinion that says that you needed to vacate any of the findings you made, or that the evidence that came into the record is not in evidence, and we've confirmed with your clerk that all those exhibits are in fact in evidence at the last setting. So for me, I intended to handle Mario once the defendant was done. I assumed that at some point Ms. Hurd intended to, I assumed you were gonna let her make some sort of a narrative or attempt to introduce evidence rather than question herself. I agreed that would be a little silly. And then I would perform an examination of her pursuant to that. And, to be honest with you, Judge, I don't know that I need a whole lot other than that. Certainly if she calls some other witnesses, that she had a lot on her witness list, if she calls some other folks, I'm prepared to conduct examinations if I need to. But that's kind of where I am. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, from your side, let's start with the first part, twofold question. Number one, what's left in your case? Number two, you heard his interpretation of the remand order, and if you want to weigh in on that, that's great. But first, he indicated, Mr. Friedman indicated what he has left is his client, once you finish with him, he's going to examine his own client, and then that you're going to offer some sort of statement he'd be able to cross-examine, and then if you have additional witnesses aside from you and the plaintiff, well, let's start with that. Do you have additional witnesses, collateral witnesses? You had the one the first day, your mom, then we heard his mom, and do you have any other witnesses aside from the two of you?
Well, Carrie, I would like to call her.
I'm sorry?
I kind of assumed that you guys might be doing that, but can I?
His wife?
Yes,
Okay, was she listed by you all, or,
yes.
and is she present?
It's his fiancée, and she is present.
Oh, okay, were you planning to call her on your case? She's present, if you are.
I was.
Okay.
So I guess I need some clarification too, because my understanding is a little different. And the way I interpret it is,
Well, that's the
What he said,
conversation we're gonna have, that's,
Remember when the lawyer got so upset that mom had been here the whole time and she's going to be a witness?
number two, that's what we're gonna have in a minute. I just wanna find out who we wish to call and examine from each side. Mr. Friedman's statement was, you haven't gotten to testify or make a statement yet. When he does, he wants to ask you some questions. That when you're done with his client, he's obviously gonna ask his client some questions. He doesn't seem to have witnesses aside from that. Do you have witnesses aside from you and plaintiff?
no,
Okay, and you're planning, of course, to continue your examination of plaintiff?
I was,
You know what this trial needs? Some of Bill's pregnant cockroaches.
I guess that's kind of where I'm a little
Okay.
confused here, because I kind of,
Did you finish with him last time? I don't recall whether you did or not.
I thought we were kind of nearing the end, but I don't.
Okay, you can make that,
Am I-
okay,
am
you
I
can
live?
make that determination later, I guess.
Okay.
Do you, after well, I guess you'd have to make it pretty soon, because once we pick up, we're gonna pick up with him on the stand, and he was on the stand as your witness. And if you wanna pass him, Mr. Friedman can ask him some questions, and then based on that, you can jot down some thoughts, I guess, ask him questions based on that. As for your own testimony, you were to make a statement in lieu of testimony, since you can't question yourself, since you don't have an attorney. He was gonna question you based on that. Now, I suppose it might be a little unorthodox and might even be unintentionally comical, but I guess it could be done if it's organized enough. If you Q&A question, what occurred this time, or what's the concerns about our daughter, and then answer. I guess you could do it that way. It seems like it can lead to ludicrous results, but I've seen people attempt it a few times. It was unintentionally humorous, though, and comical, but to ask yourself questions and answers. But if you think you can do it in a way that that makes it logically presentable, that's fine, or would you prefer to just read a statement? This is a common problem when people are,
Yeah, and that's kind of like where I'm having, some issues, because I don't know, like, exactly, I guess a statement, but I also want to get my evidence submitted, because my opinion is, yes, to some degree what he said,
Okay.
that the findings had to be made, but it also has to be supported by evidence.
We're getting, again, I'm not, you guys are way ahead of me, that's number two.
Okay.
We have to solve number one, which is, I think, the biggest immediate concern, because the court could review that other issue to some extent, but why we're here. But I just wanna know who has what remaining testimony. And there's wide latitude on this. You're in, it sounds like you either wanna, I don't wanna put words in your mouth, but, and quite the contrary, but if this helps guide the situation, I assume you're either gonna finish with him or let Mr. Friedman take him, and then based on what Mr. Friedman asked him, then you'd wanna make some statements, questions for him, and then
Yes,
as to your
back.
testimony, I assume you either wanna make a
Asking the third person.
statement unless you do wanna provide a Q&A situation. And then you said his fiance should be available to testify, and maybe we should take her first. What do you think? And then when we're done with all the, once we deal with that, you can give your view of the remand order, or you can wait till the testimony's done on that, it doesn't matter. Just let's first get this handled as to how who you want to have
Well,
testify.
you know what, I have some more questions, yeah, you know what, let's get him up, I just
Okay.
have, I don't have a lot, just a few
Okay.
things and.
Okay, and then based on what Mr. Friedman asked, you probably have some more
Okay.
questions, and you can entertain them then. Very good, so you remain under oath, please come forward. And then you are planning to have the fiancé
Let's
testify? or we
go.
don't know yet?
Yes, here
Oh,
we
we'll get to that
go.
after this.
Okay.
Okay, okay.
All right.
Judge, just as you're getting ready to begin, over the lunch break, in contemplation of what was discussed on the record, my client did contact Anthem Hills to attempt to secure an appointment for the minor child's pediatrician. We're able to secure that appointment for February 13th at 2:30 at the Coronado location with Dr. Barlow. Made sure to make sure it was with
Please
Dr.
get your
Barlow.
calendar out right now and see if there's a conflict.
February 13th.
School.
We would have intended to confer, but when you canvassed, she said she would just work around, so we just tried to get the soonest
Okay.
possible.
Want a
appointment.
commitment to it right now, or
Yeah.
are we able to commit to
Okay.
that?
When is it to?
It's February 13th at 2:30 PM. It does mean that they'll have to take Aslan out about, 20, 30 minutes early from school, but I assume for everybody's sake that.
I
that
think
would
the
be
parties
amended.
agree that, on that.
It's February 13th.
Oh, I don't know if you,
I can look.
It's a Tuesday.
It is a Tuesday the 13th.
thank you.
And prepare for this, write down every single question or issue you have for this
And that's what
position. Put a
Barlow-
number,
Barlow.
don't let them all bleed into each other, put a number in front of each issue, like a checklist, and go down them all.
The only thing
He
I
should do
wanted
the
to
same, yeah.
thank you, Judge, sorry, state for the record and clarify so everybody heard it, is that the Anthem Hills itself, when the request was made, advised that Aslan would have to be present. And I think that's probably an insurance issue, what have you.
Oh, sure.
That they need the child physically there. I know we had discussed potentially the two of them, they weren't able to do that. My sense would be, hopefully, that we bring her, they're able to have a conversation with Dr. Barlow, and if it makes sense to do something else, and, he may assess that and make some recommendation, but I just didn't want anybody to think that we were,
Okay, so we all want
sidestepping.
this not just to be an agreement, this to become a court order. All three will be there on February 13th at 3, correct?
2:30
I'm sorry, 2:30 on the 13th.
on the 13th.
Mom, do you
She
have
is on
any
the wit list
conflicts
list,
with that
yes.
at all? Okay, are you gonna be there and be there early?
And that's
And you're
at
gonna have your questions and issues written down with a number in front of each one? Good, okay.
And that's at the Coronado location.
You know
So
where it is?
everybody's- That's transparent for everybody.
You know where it is, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's my one, yeah.
It's about time these two are in the same room with the same specialist, hearing the same information. And maybe this will be a start, who knows?
Do you want us to read the address into the record, Judge, so it's clear?
It couldn't hurt.
Okay, the address is going to be 871, that's 871 Coronado Center Drive. That is suite number 141, Henderson, Nevada, 89052.
Excellent.
And that's Anthem Hills, pediatrics.
Okay. Very good, please. Go ahead.
I tried.
I didn't hear you.
It's a happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
2 weeks, alright. Alright, so let's start here. I know somewhere towards the end of your testimony, you had said that when I asked, why we shouldn't have joint custody and why we shouldn't have equal time, and your opinion was,
I don't actually remember my opinion, but probably it had something to do with past drug use and you breaking into my house, and I just don't trust you.
okay, you were very concerned about my character. Is that it, or,
Yes.
and this is based on, I think you had said, refresh my memory?
Prior experiences, finding meth in the house, you being addicted to pills, doing coke with my ex-wife.
Interesting, okay, you want, okay. And when did this supposedly occur?
Which time?
All the time, so if it was that extensive, what are the time periods?
Well, the time with my ex-wife would have been sometime in December, January, because I remember texting your son and letting him know about it. I found meth in the house on multiple occasions.
And when was this?
One time was before Aslan was born,
Okay, how far before she was born?
right before you found out you were pregnant with her,
You found it, where?
in our bedroom,
Where in the bedroom?
on the bathroom sink,
On the bathroom sink?
Mhm.
In what form?
in a little baggie,
And
next
how-
to a mirror and a straw.
Okay. And what did you do?
Confronted you about it.
And what did I do?
You said you needed it to get through school.
Okay. And what did you do after that?
I was upset. I was mad. I was mad at you for a while. And then you tried to console me and confirm to me that you wouldn't do it no more. But then I kept seeing $200 taken out of the bank account every other week, cash.
And how often did this happen?
I can't remember, but often enough where I would notice it.
And so what would you say? I was addicted and you found, you said multiple times. That was one time. When was another time?
I don't remember. Don't remember the exact dates.
So that's one time. And you said right before I got pregnant? Is that what you're,
Yeah,
So 2015?
when they found meth in your system on your first doctor's appointment. Your mom was there for that one.
well, we're gonna back up and talk to her about it if you want. Okay. So, at that point, what was, okay, I wanna hear about all these times, 'cause
I'm sorry?
I wanna hear about all these times. So right before 2015, it's just laying on the sink.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
And I also found it in the office where your computer was,
And where?
in a sunglass case, which is now Aslan's bedroom, but was the office at the time.
Okay. And when was this?
Before Aslan was born, 2014, 2015.
So
I don't
there's-
remember exact years. It was 10 years ago.
Okay, so you're saying it's extensive,
Very much so.
but you only found it twice, that you can remember, and it's 10 years ago.
That I found, yeah.
And your reaction to, at that point?
I was upset with you and asked you why you were doing it. And I believe you said you were gonna get off of it, and I believed you,
Okay. And then what happened?
knowing
after
that you were hooked on pills before that.
Okay, wanna go into that?
You're asking the questions.
Well, you're trying to establish, you're saying that you can't trust me. I'm addicted to drugs. And we're basing this on your testimony, yet,
It's a good question. You mean the current, because I'm having a little trouble here, because I'm not necessarily sure she would deny some usage. She may take issue with how extensive you say it is. I think we might have a misunderstanding here. I just want to have clarity. That was then, this is now. Are we talking about, because she did ask you a question in the present tense, why don't you believe she should have custody at this time? So
Queen Snugglebutt.
assuming that she may minimize past drug use and you think it's more extensive than it is, we don't seem to have we didn't have more recent testing, and she did offer the last time to be tested.
Get
We thought this was a problem.
to
No one did, so
work,
we have to
woman.
assume it's
We're
not a
all going
problem
through with
anymore.
jaw.
So you're saying that you're concerned about a recurrence, or you think she's still using, or are you centering everything based on a couple, 3 years ago?
I think she's still using her.
Okay. But then, I wanna make it clear to everyone, I put that one out like a fat softball over the heart of the plate 3 times. If you think she's still using, she will be directed to a test today. If not, and no one wants to bother investing the time and money, then I'm required to make a finding that she's, clean at this time. Doesn't preclude you from testifying about past use or arguing you think there'll be a recurrence, that's fair game. But Mr. Friedman, this is true that,
I was gonna wait on this.
yeah,
but
and I
would
think
like-
in fairness,
if you'd like to hear
I
from
think
Jeff.
in fairness, you should be invited.
Here's the reason, Judge, is
Yeah.
I think what, the question that wasn't asked, Judge,
Right.
is if there was anything that changed in my client's perception of the defendant between the first 2
That's
days
why
of
I'm
trial
having-
and today.
that's why
And I
I'm
think if
having-
you ask him about the difference in
Right.
Miss Hurd respectfully, the first 2 days of trial and the way she appeared today, I think he will tell you that her
Okay.
demeanor appears.
Because we didn't have that, that's what I'm lacking, that transition, like you said.
I think if you wanna ask him those questions, I
Now,
think.
go ahead, she will. If she won't, you will for voir dire, but she will. You understand what we're getting at? We're
No,
trying
no,
to juxtapose the
Well, I-
present to the past, so.
So, if you want me to voir dire just a bit on the issue?
He can
so-
voir dire, just to, that's a fancy term for meaningless. He can take the witness and establish clarity as to whether we're talking about now versus then or whatever. Then you take the witness back for the meat of your testimony, so go ahead.
So, Mr. Opapari, you recall that when we were here for the first 2 days of trial some 2 weeks ago, what the judge sort of canvassed all of us about, you and I spoke for our side of the table. Do you recall that conversation?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall that he asked if we believed, certainly there was drug testing records, there were failed drug tests in the run-up to the trial that we're here on remand for. You remember that?
Yes.
And he asked if, at presently situated, did you have some indicia or reason to believe that there was an ongoing drug issue with Ms. Hurd? Because that's what he's concerned about, today. Do you recall that question?
Yes.
And at that time, do you recall that we responded and said, Judge, based upon the limited interactions that they've had and what we've seen, you didn't have any concerns there, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the judge is a little confused, I think, probably, maybe, as to when you said, well, I think you might still be using. And so what I was trying to explain is that, what you and I had been discussing, which is that it appeared to you, and you tell me if I'm wrong, or actually you can say that, do you believe, is there something about her appearance or demeanor today that is different, for example, than what you observed the first 2 days of trial?
Yes.
And what did you know or appear to be different?
I noticed her grinding her jaw, her not fidgeting a lot, not very foremost coming on her questions, like being confused.
Now, is that something, are you sitting here today saying that you, without a doubt, believe that you know for a fact that Ms. Hurd is intoxicated today?
I would say yes.
This cat breaks my heart. I give this cat anything he wants at any time because his last owners declawed him. Oh, I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. I wish I could fix it and I can't. But I give him tuna. The other cats get cat food. I give him a blanket when he's sleeping. He gets this real soft, fuzzy blanket to put on top of him. And he beats up the other cats. So the other cats have claws, but they run from him. Bye,
But
Pity.
I understand that's what you're saying you believe based on your experience, but you're not telling the judge you know for a fact that she is.
I do not know for a fact.
What you're saying is, the judge asked you, based on your observations of Ms. Hurd and how she had appeared, first 2 days of trial, we did not have any concerns. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then based upon her demeanor today,
Get to work.
that has changed. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Judge, that is,
Well,
I think,
I may have had some, maybe I'm missing it, maybe I need to look more closely at people. I agree I might have some difference of opinion between what I'm seeing today versus some certain hearings a couple of years ago, I grant that, but I must have missed it. I'm not noticing anything particularly different between now and the more recent court date. What's the offer of proof from your perspective? I haven't.
if you want me to say what
I don't know, I
Mr.
mean,
Opapari observed, or-
what is she
Well,
doing? What is she doing?
what Mr. Opapari pointed out to me from the years of knowing her was that her jaw was very, very, very clenched. She was positioning
Last
her
time or
body.
this time?
Not the first 2 times we were here,
This
just
time.
today. right? That her body position is very strange, that while I understand she is a novice, she's not an attorney, but that I found her to be sort of very, very clear-headed in terms of the way that she was trending, and when we started today, that was not my client's observation of her, and he knows her infinitely better than I do, but I can tell you candidly, as an officer of the court, I would share his observations. I can't tell you that it's drugs, it could be nerves. I
So
can't
you're
tell you,
saying
but I can tell
now,
you that
today is the concern of the prior hearing?
today.
But at the prior hearing is when he said that he had an issue with the past. He didn't have issue with
The correct response, woman, would be, I'm not doing drugs. Test me. Give me a test. I'm not on drugs.
the present. I'm asking about past, and now he's saying because of the present, that's
Sure.
why he inferred to the past. So it's kind of jumping around. It's
Well,
like,
that's what I'm trying to get
No, I'm being
to.
very
so I
clear.
think you're trying to build something
I'm
that
not.
isn't there.
I
I'm
mean-
stressed out. I don't know what I'm doing.
Part of it could be, well, the question was, do you have present concerns?
That was last time. And so this time, and he said he had concerns. When I asked him, why shouldn't we have joint custody? Why do you
Because
feel-
I have to rule by law that there's no problem with narcotics unless you have an agreement that she gets tested today and he's willing to pay and she's willing to go down. But that offer was made last time.
Said, "I'll pay."
before, and it was not
I'll pay. I want to know.
not accepted.
Your Honor,
So unless we wind up with an agreement like that at the end of the day, I can't really, I'm not permitted
Be right
to
back.
base.
Be
even
good.
if I were to start paying closer attention
You just,
to each individual, and even if I were to say, yeah, it does look a little different, I couldn't make findings on that, of that inflammatory nature, extrapolate from that. So are you guys gonna ask that she be tested again, or?
Judge, nobody was asking you to make findings. You asked my client a question, Ms. Hurd asked him a question, he was answering the question.
But you
There was a change.
kind of are,
I mean,
if you're.
honestly, if you want.
Well, here's what I'm saying, you kind of are, and I understand this is not your testimony of him, but her testimony of him. But if he's advancing, and that's a critical issue and a critically important matter, if he's advancing, she should be restricted, and he's referencing narcotics abuse and the behavioral changes it causes as a basis for that, I can do absolutely nothing with that unless I have some independent recent verification, so.
I understand, he's just not gonna lie to you, Judge.
Okay, so if
when
it's
we
limited-
notice-
if it's just
when we
limited
notice a
to that.
change in her demeanor, and
Okay.
he's alluding to it, and we're looking over, I can't
And
tell you why it
I
is, he's
get
got to
it,
answer honestly
and
and say.
I get it that this is not your testimony of him and that you may not have necessarily developed it the same way that it's being developed, so I get it. So we'll just proceed on, with your testimony of him, well, never mind, go ahead. So you heard he's saying that, he was saying extensive usage and before the meth you were hooked on pills, and I guess that's where it kind of was left off, so proceed.
Um, Well, I was pregnant with asthma. You said you went to some of the doctor's appointments, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And did you talk to the doctor?
We were in the room together.
But you said you had a concern. So did you talk to her?
On your very first doctor visit? No, I didn't go to that one.
Throughout the course of when she was early, the term that I was pregnant, did you talk to the doctor?
About your drug use?
About your concern?
No, because we talked.
So you never actually talked to the doctor?
No.
Your mom testified earlier that, and this is where I was trying to go. You said that you were very concerned about past issues, and that's why I shouldn't have joint custody now. Shouldn't even be, and you've denied me even talking to her for, 496 days now. Because of these concerns you have. Yet, you didn't call her one time to check up on me when I was at home alone with asthma. I went to Colorado for the summer, and I can't remember. Sorry.
Let me make sure we don't get into
I felt like you
a
want me
narrative.
to answer.
But yes, but you can't add,
Yeah,
but you
I
can't
just
link
realized
3 or 4
everything's
questions
so
together and make it, and
okay,
start
yeah,
making it
right.
a narrative of things that happen. Go ahead. He may follow it, he may be able to answer, but just to be sure,
You said you were
just chop it
concerned.
up a little.
You didn't, your mom said that you didn't call to check up on me. Would you agree with that?
Call to check up on you?
Call to check, just check in.
When you were pregnant?
When you were pregnant, when his mom testified that I was her caretaker, I was at home with her, that you didn't call to check in. Is that,
I called and talked to you every day on the phone.
okay. The 2 summers, I spent 2 summers in Colorado, right, me and Aslan and I, 2019, 2020, the entire summer. And you say you were concerned. How many times did you come out?
Twice. Once a year.
And for how many days?
4 to 5?
And we were there for the entire summer,
Correct.
and you had no issues.
Couldn't do nothing about it.
So you did have issues, but you,
I didn't. I figured you were off it. I was hoping you would. I didn't think you'd ever lie to me.
okay. But I'm trying to get, I can't, this is getting hard, it's getting hard because
Yeah, just proceed with the prepared questions you have. Don't worry if certain questions or line of questioning didn't necessarily result in what they need to. Just move on with it and maybe it'll all link up.
I think it was a long time.
your mom's testimony earlier, she said I was a caretaker, and you worked, which I agree. How would you say, you didn't question, would you question my parenting with Aslan?
Sometimes.
And what would you question?
The amount of work that you would try to make her do. Wouldn't give her a break.
So now you're concerned that I would work her too hard?
I didn't say that.
Okay, so what are you saying?
You constantly want her in activities. You constantly want her doing work at home. You don't want her to be a child.
Can you give examples?
You signed her up for numerous activities. She went to speech. She went to therapy. She went to 2 therapies, plus going to school. Kid never had a break.
2 therapies, what do you mean 2 therapies?
OT, PT, and then her speech. So actually 3 therapies.
The same that she has right now.
Right.
So you're upset at me for doing the same?
No, I'm not upset about therapies.
Okay, so she's in therapy, and you're upset about me signing her up for extracurricular activities?
4 days a week.
What would you do?
I don't remember. You had her signed up for some soccer thing. You had her sign her up for a bunch of things. I don't remember the exact details of them all. At that time, I was working from 10 to 7.
Did you address this with me?
Excuse me?
Did you address this with me, this concern that you had?
Did I address what concern?
That I was overworking her? Or had her too
I-
involved?
Just like every other parent, I told you that she doesn't need to be in all these things.
I'm split on that. Because, activities are fun. Kids have fun. Kids meet friends. But, constant activities and homework and everything, kids do need to be kids. But, I don't know. I'm split on that one. All right, guys. I want to keep going. I want to know what she's going to ask him. I want to know what he's going to say, but I'm already over time. I already went over my time. So I have to stop here. We have to wait 24 hours on my ghost birthday to see more. But we're going to have a different clip first. But don't worry, you're going to love it. You're going to love the different clip. I'm going to start OJ in a few minutes. And if not, I will see you guys later. You guys talk in Discord. Talk to me in Discord today. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Got these life echoes, digital dreams. Through the screen, her blue eyes gleam. Wicked humor, summer's bloom. Her humor dark and twisted charm. In a way, there's no alarm. Freedom tales late into the night. Her laughter feels just right. Even when my world turns gray, with a giggle she lights the way. Her eyes near a sky so blue. In her jokes there's a truth so true. With each string she brings the light, turns dark days into bright. Kathy's laugh cuts through the gloom. Eyes blue like a summer's bloom. Her humor dark and twisted charm. In a way, there's no alarm. Streaming tales late into the night. Her laughter feels just right. Even when my world turns gray, with a giggle she lights the way. Kathy's laugh